in terms of making that applicable for people who follow comp training for athletes, I feel like we are in an era where people truly do want to train smarter. They want to approach things with a little bit more training maturity, performance maturity, training IQ. But to your point, I'm curious what you guys think about this like data-driven approach, because I think a lot of general population, they don't have the necessary data. They don't know what their lactate threshold pace per mile even is to base splits off of. So talk about this a lot in the gym. Like today is a mile, a 1K row, a mile, a 1K row. People are going to come out and run a 140, 400 for that mile pace. The next 2 days later, we're running 200-meter runs paired with a barbell movement. They're going to run the exact same pace for those 200 meters. Like they have one gear, and it doesn't pair well in terms of this like well-rounded approach to the totality of a training week, what it's paired with, the total distance, the intended stimulus of the workout. It's like, this is just the pace that I run. And most of the time that's either inappropriately too aggressive for something like a 1 mile 1K, or it's too slow for 10 rounds of 200 meters with some burpees. You equip general population with the steps to take to figure out what kind of actual time frames are connected with RPE exertions. Like a 7 should be somewhere in this range. Do they need to find their threshold data? Do they need to find their maximums that they work off of? Like weightlifting, how would you guys guide people through finding that so they truly can train smarter and know what their paces should be?
I'm curious, Ben, in your gym environment, how do you get people to understand feeling? Because that's actually something that a lot of people don't know how to tap into, and they don't even know how to assess that. And with general population, especially if somebody who's, mid 30s to mid 40s, and they're like, I need to turn my life around a little bit and get into fitness, and found XYZ and came into this gym, and now they're jumping in. They have no concept of what it means. Like I've done this my whole life. It's been
Right.
It's been every facet of my being since I was 9 years old. So it's so baked in. How have you seen that shift? And how do you get somebody who hasn't had that background to find that in the gym?
When you're training conditioning outside of anaerobic capacity, meaning VO2, lactic threshold, endurance, or VO2 max training. That means that we're training. So maybe let's like kind of talk about those. So this is not the conversation we have with them, but just to set this table a little bit. Anaerobic capacity is really short, really high power. It kind of peaks around 20 to 40 seconds. If you're training in the 1 to 2 minute, it's still mostly, you're getting a little glycolytic, but mostly anaerobic capacity. If you're training in the 10 to 20 seconds, there's still some, but it's more just that pure power based. The next kind of like bump up that is really kind of beneficial is that VO2 max, which is training in that 7, 10, 12 minute range. Beyond that is lactic threshold, 20 to 40 minutes. And then you have endurance, an hour plus. And yes, of course, there's gaps in between, and there's the gray. It's not gears. It's more shades of gray. It's like a season than it is just you're in one or the other. So here's the way we do this is when you are doing a particular workout, it's for a certain amount of rounds. We talked about this earlier. What you want to do is if you're, all of the rounds should be the same pace. That's how you do it. And you go, if we're doing as Jameson said, let's say we're doing 10 rounds, a lactic threshold, 10 rounds of 400-meter run, and be a little bit long. 10 rounds of a 200-meter run, and 10 burpees, 10 box jumps. Something simple, right? 10 rounds, 10 burpees, 10 box jumps, 200-meter run. What we would want to do is that workout is going to take you 18 minutes to do that, a little under 2 minutes per round. We want every single round to be the same. And if that's the case, then what you'd ask the athlete is, what did that feel like for the first half of that workout? I promise you, it was a 7 or an 8, or a 6 or a 7, somewhere. It's around a 7. That's that feeling. That's what that feels like. That's what it feels like to go at a 7. Now, if they go out and they start to fade and die, and the last rounds take 30 seconds more than the first rounds, then you go, that was an unsustainable pace. You just have to teach them that. That was an unsustainable pace. So whenever we're doing interval work, that is the same amount of work every round. We want athletes to track their round scores and then just look at the data. and then just take that feeling and go, okay, if I'm going to be working for 8, 9, 10, 12 minutes, that's the pace I should be going out at based off of feel. Because it's going to be different from a run than it is thrusters, than it is kettlebell swings, than it is walking lunges. But based off of that feel, what is that feel like for that pace? And if it's going to be a 20, 30-minute workout, what does that feel like for the first half? Said another way, super simple. If the rounds are equal, for me, we're not doing descending, something like 21, 18, 12, 15, 9, or something like that. As long as they're equal rounds, are you negative splitting? If you are negative splitting, you're probably doing this right. Now, the only way you wouldn't is if you came out too slow and you had so much left in the tank at the end that your faster rounds were like 30% faster. Usually that's not the case, particularly in our world. The only reason that might be the case if you're working with people like ultra endurance runners, marathoners, because they just can't go out fast. If you're working with Ironman triathletes, they're just going to overly pace everything from the beginning. But the idea is, the short answer is, track the round scores. Just track round scores. And then just, what does that feel like? Did you do it well? What did it feel like? Did you do it well? What does it feel like?
There's another method that I've used over the years in competing. Now this only applies to like similar workouts. So a 10 rounder of 3 modalities kind of scenario like you laid out. A good example is, I think back in 2017 or 2018, we did Nate at the gym out in Boston. And essentially, the method that I've used is, if I came out too hot and I started to die off at the end, I take my total time or total rounds and I just do the math and find out what my average split was. And that is what I probably should have held from the start.
That's right.
And if I had held that, then I probably would have been in a good place. Maybe go up a little bit at the end. Maybe I have to go down a little bit. But for the most part, that's going to be your average. And so and it's part of the reason why I'm a big fan. Every year I did just a machine workout, something like a 5K row, a 20-minute bike, a 10-minute bike on a fan bike, just to find out what is that sustainable pace for me. Because I know if those movements show up in a workout that is time capped in a certain manner, like, hey, this is supposed to be a 12-minute time cap, and ideally your target score is around 9 minutes, I know what I can hold on the bike for that amount of time. And you get those little paces. That's something that I've definitely used a lot.
Cole's point, that the Nate workout, maybe just spell that to give people a little more context to that. Nate is 2 ring muscle ups, 4 handstand push-ups, and 8 heavy kettlebell swings. If Cole finishes his first round in 1:25, you'd think that would be kind of the pace. But let's say he gets 10 rounds, right? So it's an AMRAP 20. He averaged 2 minutes per round. So the next time he would go and do that, instead of coming out at 1:25 the first round, he would come out at 2. You're going to come out that slow. That's your pace. That's your maximal sustained pace. Now, there's little caveats to this. First round can be a little bit faster because you're using up that ATP and you can get a little bit of juice at the end. But the big thing you want to do is actually be able to sprint to the finish. And if you do this well, everyone will have a sprint to the finish, depending on how fit they are. That could start anywhere from 15 seconds if you're not very fit, all the way up to 3 minutes. Because someone like Cole, who has a big anaerobic capacity engine, could actually really extend that, meaning he's going to start his sprint with a round and a half to go. Not wait till the last little bit, but a full round and a half to go on that thing.
Yeah. And I think that's actually one of the things that's really important in understanding our approach to fitness, especially to conditioning these days, of the importance of having aerobic endurance, aerobic power, and anaerobic capacity. So they all play together, and they can all play together in the exact same workout. In a 20-minute AMRAP, all of them are there's an interplay between all of them. Your aerobic endurance and what is developed when you develop aerobic endurance, and how that physiologically is impacting how your body processes metabolic waste that's building up in the body, it's beneficial to you. And then obviously the aerobic power piece, we keep talking about VO2 max and lactate threshold. In our circles, the way that we, in our Venn diagram, when we talk about having complete, well-rounded conditioning, aerobic power is really broken into lactate threshold and the VO2 max, because they happen around the same effort and similar efforts, VO2 max being a little bit more intense. But that's kind of the main engine in an AMRAP 20 type workout. When you're trying to maximize a 20-minute workout, those are the main conditioning engines. And then anaerobic capacity and aerobic endurance are supporting that. To Ben's point, if you have really good anaerobic capacity, it doesn't matter if you hit your lactate threshold and you've been working or you're operating at your VO2 max, you might still be able to tap into a little bit of extra juice because they're completely different pathways of energy production. And so it's like, that's why it's important to be able to, or why it's important to develop all of those, because they all play with each other at certain points in workouts.
So as we geek out about this stuff, I can kind of like, the nerds are like yes, fired up, and like, you know, and everyone else is eye rolling. Here's to pull people back in. We all want to get results. We all want to look good, feel good, play good. We all want to be able to kick ass into our 90s. We want to look good today, tomorrow, and forever. That's like, no one's, if we sit across the room, raise your hand, no hands are down. Like, everyone wants that. So there's different levels that we can do. Think of it as like the sick, well, fit continuum if you want to. But the lowest level is sedentary. Like, you're not doing anything. We all know that. That's sickness. The next one up that little continuum is movement. And this is what people are confused about, is movement. This is the 10,000 steps. This is take the stairs, not the escalator. This is park farther away at the grocery store. This is get a standing desk. It is better than sedentary. It really doesn't move the needle. I'm just going to call that out. It's not the thing. And this is what people do, these things. They don't see the change and they get frustrated. I don't blame them because they're working on movement. Now, up the continuum beyond movement is exercise. Exercise is go for a run. Exercise is go do a boot camp class, go do a spin class, go to Pilates, go to yoga. That's exercise. Better than movement, but it's not the thing that really moves the needle. What moves the needle is training. Training, looking for specific adaptations, targeting what you are doing specifically for specific outcomes. Now, the contention that we have is the thing that we should really be looking for if we want to look good, feel good, play good. Today, tomorrow, and forever is well-rounded training. It's not about just going to try to run a sub 3-hour marathon, back squat 500 pounds, or be able to do the splits. It is the combination of those three things that are really the movers and shakers that get people to where they ultimately want to be. And this is where, if you're going to do training, well-rounded training, you need to do strength, conditioning, and mobility. And you need to hit each of the components inside of each of those things. We talked about conditioning today. Cole just kind of laid it out. It is anaerobic, the high power stuff, anaerobic capacity, aerobic power combined of VO2 max and lactate threshold, and endurance. We need it's not just running a marathon. It's also not just, what's the fastest, what's the highest you can get on a rower or a ski erg. It's not just this, how many, what can you, how fast can you do 10 thrusters at 115? It's the combination of all those things.
Yeah. So for awareness on that, in terms of how it fits into our training week and our actual well-rounded structure, either of you push back on this or answer this question. Tuesdays and Thursdays is aligned with what we talked about, what you guys have been talking about today, which is the margins between slowest and fastest needs to be slim to none. Your first round and maybe your last round's a bit faster because you kind of emptied the tank, but repeatable efforts is what we're looking for at your threshold, maximal sustainable pace. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays for us for the most part. Fridays is where we will often insert the anaerobic capacity component. And that approach is where that varies in terms of, because of the effort you come out trying to hold, you likely will not repeat your efforts or repeat those same times, rounds, reps, whatever it is you're scoring.
It depends on.
It's right. Yeah. So that's why it's come out at a 9 or a 10. So anaerobic capacity is an RPE of 9 or 10. If there's multiple intervals, you don't want to, and they're long, if let's say there are multiple 1-minute intervals, you don't want to come out at a 10 because you can't even hold the 10 for the first interval. You only have a 10 for about 30 seconds, and even 30 seconds, you actually really don't. Anything over 20 seconds requires pacing. Even 20 seconds requires pacing. In the Olympic 200, that's a 20-second event. That's a paced event. They don't come out guns a-blazing as fast as they can. Meaning, even in the anaerobic capacity things, for most of them, there will be some level of pacing. It's just so much less, right? You're coming out at a 90%, but 9 is not a 10. 90% is way below 95, 96, 97, 98, and way below 100%. So we don't want to drop off on those. We do want those to be very close and across the board. And
But
then,
you're coming out of very intense, and to drop down to like, if we're doing shorter intervals, there is times where it's like go hard from the beginning, because we're also trying to train some things like neuromuscular power and output and things, and we're trying to get the most intense response from the body, or stimulus from the body that we can, and those are going to be done in shorter intervals, the 30-second range. It's like go hard, and I'm okay if you drop off. If we're doing 6 intervals, I'm okay if you drop off in 5 and 6. We're looking to teach the body how to process hydrogen buildup and whatnot. It's like, so yeah, it's kind of time domain specific, but you got the main gist there of like we're operating at an RPE 9 out of 10. And to loop back to what Ben was saying, is like, how does this actually apply to life? It's like, look, we're ambulatory human beings. It means like we're beings. Like we go out and we do things, we move, and we want to have vitality of life is to be able to go explore, like to be able to go live life and do life. And I was actually explaining this to my mom recently. Like, Mom, like if we want to go do this trip that you have been talking about for the last 10 years, and you want to do that with me and you want to do that with your grandkids, you can't keep up with your grandkids. So we got to get you to the point where you could just keep up with the grandkids. I can slow down, that's fine. But they have a hard time slowing down. They just want to go and run and explore. And I don't want to keep them from being able to explore the world and see things and climb peaks, big or small. And I want you to be able to do that with them. And I kind of explained to her in just a very simple term. I was like, hey, look, like if we just improved your endurance, your just ability to be on your feet for extended periods of time, that will allow us to go on some really beautiful nature walks. Like that would be, and it'd be awesome. We could go over to the Olympic Mountains in Washington State on the peninsula, and it's this beautiful rainforest. And it's not like a tropical rainforest, but an evergreen rainforest. With just thick, beautiful hanging moss all over the place and these giant trees. And you can nature walk through that. That's great. But if you want to have any sort of elevation gain or loss, rolling hills, gentle rolling hills that you want to be able to go through, like we got to increase your lactate threshold. Really, that's what we're talking about. Because that's going to rise as you're climbing up hills and different steep inclines. And then for her, it would be an anaerobic capacity thing to even climb anything that has any steep elevation gain, because she needs to be able to process all of that junk that builds up in the body and the legs that, as you're climbing that. And it just, what we're getting at is training this way opens up your world. It gives you opportunity. It gives you possibility. And I've told Genesee, my wife, a handful of times of like, my athletic career was an experiment for me to learn and understand the human body and training so that I could help people experience what I get to experience, the freedom that I get to experience. And that's really what I care about in this process is helping open up doors for people to be able to experience life to the fullest.
Yeah, man, that's so good. I think that when I think about you guys going on a trip, a family trip, and your mom going on a walk with Jack, I would think that the objective is to eliminate absolutely anything that would pull her from the present moment. Because that's life. Like life is whatever you're doing in the present. Totally. And I often think that we train the way we train so that we ruthlessly eliminate anything that could pull us out of the present. And that kind of stuff, like a physical limitation to be present, is going to do that faster than anything else. I literally cannot be present right now because I lack the capacity or capability to be in this moment and engage in this moment. And so it's like you just train in a way that eliminates those distractions and the things that pull you out of that.
I don't want to go on a hike with somebody, and even if it's a minimal incline, and have them just thinking about how much pain they're in and how terrible this feels. I want them to be able to be present and to feel good. And
they're certainly not connecting with you if they're
exactly.
For sure.
And it takes training to be able to develop that and have that. Have you.
So. Cool. So Ben, you've kind of touched on it a little bit here, but I think just to make it as succinct and direct as possible, can you summarize? I think Cole just did a really beautiful job explaining the why behind our shift in focus in terms of our training intent and our programming method and approach. So can you, for people, summarize in a very simple sentence what we mean when we say complete training.
Yeah, well-rounded. We want to be able to do it all. That's the succinct way to say it.
The whole idea of complete training, of having complete fitness, is being well-rounded enough that you can go experience whatever you want to experience in life. Go do that. You want to go do that? Awesome. Let's go. Let's go do it. Having that freedom, it's phenomenal. And it feels really, really good. And so let's give that to